Hello, everyone. Welcome to this new live of the R Letter, a one-on-one conversation live, although virtual, about rest. And today I'm very excited to be in the honorable company of Adah Parris. But before I give her the floor, I just want to say a few words about what the R Letter is and why we are here today. And just before that, I want to acknowledge the authorship of Pramod Tiwari's, whose pictures we are using as background. So these are not my pictures, they are Pramod Tiwari's, and I really love them. That's why I thought we could use them. So the R Letter is originally a written project that I came up with on the basis of Tricia Hersey's trailblazing book, Rest is Resistance, which was published in 2022, so less than a year ago, actually. And Tricia Hersey has been working on rest as the NAP ministry, at the NAP ministry for now a decade. So please buy the book, read it, support her work. It's amazing. And so based on the work of Tricia Hersey, I had this idea of starting this letter, which is a weekly newsletter where I interview a professional and ask them about their relationship to rest, because rest is actually fundamental to life. Without rest, we die. Yet rest is not something people actually feel comfortable talking about, especially in the workplace, but even outside. Why? Because unfortunately, grind culture is shaping our every move and our every thought. And of course, grind culture hates it when we're resting, when we're not doing. And so what the R Letter is seeking to do is to normalize conversations around and practices of rest in the workplace and in general, because the R Letter is that platform where we can publicly talk about rest. And beyond normalizing these conversations about rest, it's about making us reflect about the fact that rest should be available and legitimate for everyone. And here I'm going to quote Hersey, who writes in the introduction of her book that, quote, "Rest is not a privilege because our bodies are still our own, no matter what the current systems teach us. The more we think of rest as luxury, the more we buy into the systematic lies of grind culture." And the other way around, I would say, and this is me talking, the more, based on Hersey's work, the more we think of rest as something that is available and legitimate for us, the more we are distancing ourselves from grind culture. So let's talk about rest. Let's do more rest, remembering that it's still a shape-shifting, lifelong practice. So the way we rest is varies across individual communities, geography, seasons, stages of life and history. So there is not one way to rest. We all have different ways of resting. And so that's why I think it's so important to talk about it and to be inspired by each other to learn how to rest better. And I'll stop here because we can say so much more about rest, but I think it's better if we do it with Adah. And I'm gonna give her the floor now. Maybe Adah, you want to tell us first who you are in a few sentences. What is your work? What is your job?
Thank you for having me here, Bérénice. My name is Adah Parris, and I am currently in London, Southeast London in the UK. What do I do? So it's an interesting question. I think the easiest way to sum up what I do is I help people to think differently. And I do that through different ways. I am a keynote speaker. I am an artist. I am the chair of a couple of organizations. So one is Mental Health First Aid England, and we train people to be mental health and suicide first aiders. So rest is very important in that context. And the other is the advisory group for the Centre for Cultural Values. And we look at what's the impact that culture has on who we are and how we show up. So I think that rest fits into all of those things. And the common thread, I'm also an artist. And the common thread through everything is this one question that I think I've been trying to define for most of my life. And the question is, what type of ancestor do you want to be? So a huge question.
Yes, now you make me think already. Thank you for introducing yourself. Like, okay, what type of ancestor do I want to be? Wow. That could be the topic of a whole long conversation. But we'll come back to it actually towards the end of that conversation, because I'm interested in making a link between ancestry and rest. So we'll come back to it. My next and easy, but maybe actually hard question for you would be, how are you today, rest-wise?
I'm exhausted today. I'm exhausted. So I am currently recovering from my 4th bout of COVID. And this one really, I know. And this one really knocked me out. So there's a long tail to it. It's not quite long COVID, but my body is still trying to process. And what I'm finding is that I fatigue very easily.
So rest is an issue. I mean, it is a real need, and yet there is not enough rest to try to get over the symptoms of the disease. And I think, actually, speaking of COVID, I think it's interesting that such a pandemic comes at a time where the most of the people on this planet is already exhausted, and that's a key symptom of the disease is exhaustion.
Yeah, and I think that it's, for whatever reason the COVID happened, it happened at a time when everybody's tired. We're all exhausted. But what it did do is made us all stop. And so it took away a lot of the distractions, or the things that we were distracting ourselves with, and gave us the opportunity to rest. Even though, so it's almost a double-edged sword, because on one hand, it gave us the opportunity to rest because we couldn't go anywhere, we had to stay still. But on the other hand, the actual virus makes you fatigued. And so there's a fine balance in my own world that I don't generally need a lot of sleep. But the quality of the sleep that I have, that's different, which is generally really good. At the moment, it's not great.
I hope it gets better soon.
Me too.
Hopefully, because not feeling exhausted is not a nice feeling, and yet we can get used to it, right? We all keep saying, I'm tired, I'm tired, I'm tired. We wish we would feel rested. But do we really, and I'm not saying that about you, I'm saying that about me or about many people, do we really do what it takes to feel rested?
I think that we've got many competing things, though, haven't we? Because we've got this sense of busyness. I'm busy doing all these things. And I think the idea of FOMO, the fear of missing out, feeds into that. And so we've had the pandemic where we've all had to be still, and now things have opened up. And I think people have forgotten so much that the COVID-19 is there. And suddenly people have gone from, we can't do anything, so I want to do everything, and I need to feel every single waking minute and moment. But our bodies and our energy levels aren't in sync. And so I think that there is this real, we're in this real dilemma of wanting to get out and connect and do the things and explore and all of those things, versus we're not used to it, we're not ready. And I think it's tough.
It is. I thank you for saying that, because I think we tend to think of rest as a performance in itself, and we tend to whip ourselves if we're not resting good. So we're adding another layer to the exhaustion, or the moral exhaustion. We're like, okay, I should rest, but I can't rest, but I didn't rest enough, and it's a vicious circle.
And I think that we add another layer on top of that, is this level of expectation and commitment between people, between humans. So one of the things that I find when if I think about myself and how I've shifted, is that I have stronger boundaries around maintaining my rest. And so most of my friends and people who know me will say that I'm very good at maintaining those boundaries. So if I know that I am exhausted, I can't show up to something, and it's not because I don't want to, it's because I won't be present. And then it takes me longer to recover. So I'd rather not do it at that time, be very open and direct about the fact that that's why, and then talk about what can we do later. Let's reschedule, let's do something else.
And have you found that you had, I mean, not to train people, but to really have conversations about, please, can you hear me? Because I found it in my own experience that people sometimes can't hear it. They're like, no, but come on, come. Or they would be sad if you don't come, not understanding that your health should come first.
I think I am fortunate. What I don't think I know. I am fortunate with the people who I have around me as friends who understand that when I say I can't do something, it's very different than a personal rejection of them or their idea. Yes, there may be this, oh, but it's going to be great and this is time. But also, I know that I've burnt out 4 times. It was 3. I've had 4 burnouts, one kind of recently, and so that's it's symptomatic of that, trying to do everything to fit everybody in, to do all the things, to show up, to be present for people. We're forgetting that we need to be present for ourselves first. And so I'm good at now, much better at saying, I can't do this on this day, but let's get a date in the diary now. And I think that's the difference. Trying to make a commitment and say, look, I can't do it now, but let's try and put another date in the diary now, rather than I'm going to wait until I feel better to put a date in, because it becomes never, never.
I love that. I had never thought of that, but this idea of committing in the future to show the fact that you committed in the present, although not able to. And it also perhaps assuage a part of you that might be frustrated of not being able to do it. I will do that myself, because I think I tend to be like, I can't, but then I'm like, let's see. And then, as you say,
but I think that's about for me. I'm not making any judgment on you, but for me, I've learned that it is about, that's where the disappointment comes. That there's, or not comes, but that's where the disappointment has the potential to flare up into something else. Because if I say I can't do it because I'm exhausted, and I can hear in my voice right now I am exhausted, this croakiness is that. But so if I can't do it at that time, I want to show you that I do want to be there. It's just, it's not going to be right now. And let's try and sort out a day. And I try to do that as much as possible. Of course, sometimes we can't, but I try to show the person that I see them, I care, and I recognize that there's an element of disappointment in what we've created, or, you know, the thing we were trying to do.
Thank you for showing up today.
That's okay. Yeah, that's okay. But look, this is the perfect opportunity to even talk about it, right?
Okay, so good. And now, so let's dive a little bit deeper. We talked about rest. We've talked about a few tips now, tricks. But I want to know about your relationship to rest in general. Has it changed? How does it fit in your life in general, or in your work life in particular? And I'm talking about the relationship to rest, because it's something that, I mean, we've always been resting or not resting since we were born.
Yeah.
So how is your relationship to rest now, before, for the future, hopefully?
I have a much better relationship with rest, because so I'm in my 50s. And when I was in my 20s, 30s, you know, going out, wanting to do everything, never wanting to miss out of everything. So there was this whole, I can, you know, some of us used to joke, I'll sleep when I'm in bed. You know,
I've heard that so much.
It's such a, it's self-harm is the way that I would look at that now. It is self-harm, because I'm saying that there's so much that I want to do that I'm not going to do the thing that is actually vital to my organs, my skin, my mental health, my well-being. So now I'm in a place where I know if I don't get enough rest, I can't function, and it takes me longer to recover. My joints ache. You know, I laugh with my friends. We're in this age where we still want to go and party and dance and have fun. But can I do a whole weekend at a festival? I'm not sure anymore. I could do the first night and then I'm ready to go home. You know, I even went out dancing with a friend, some friends actually over the weekend.
Yeah.
And got there, my friend was DJing, danced, and it was great. And then I just got to a point where I'm done. It was probably 90 minutes into the whole night. And I just said to my friend, I'm gonna go home.
Wow.
I've had such a good time. I've danced till I've sweat, you know, shake. I've had some fun with my friends. And actually, my mental health and well-being and my rest is that important to me, that I'm going to leave whilst I'm still on a high and happy from dancing and seeing people. Go home, to get into my lovely bed, to have a beautiful rest, I always get into my bed and I'm like, oh, my bed. I do. I bought myself a lovely new mattress.
Wow.
Oh, my bed, and then I'm gone. But it means that when I wake up in the morning, I tend to be less groggy. I've got a whole day ahead of me, and I can do other things.
And I think as well, I mean, reflecting on how your relationship to rest has evolved. So when you were younger, you were doing less of rest and more of entertainment. But I think, and this is something that Ursay said in her book, that rest is a form of soul care. So through rest, we learn to connect to our soul, to our spirit, to however you want to call it. So I think with age, we are more able and we are more willing to connect with our deeper selves. When we are young, we are more outward going, right?
Yeah, and I think and this is, I'm trying not to generalize, but I do think that there is something about being older, and that's down to experience rather than the number of the age. But we get to a point, we get to certain points, not a point because it's not finite, we get to certain points where we have a better understanding of who we are and what we need and how we function, and our relationship with our body changes as we get older. So, you know, as women, we go through all sorts, well, everybody goes through hormone fluctuations, but at this kind of age group, you have perimenopause, menopause, all of these things, which shifts your relationship with your body. That you wake up one morning and you suddenly go, what is this? I don't recognize this body, and I don't recognize the amount of sleep that I need, or this irritability, or the hormone fluctuations. And so as we go through those stages, we get to a point of actually recognizing or adapting. And when we adapt to the new way, this is the new reality. For me, I'm going to speak about my own experience with this. I now have little hacks and little things that I do that I force myself to rest. So I bought a box of candles, and they're called self-care. I think they're called self-care candles. And each one burns for 20 minutes. And so what I do is sometimes when I have a bath, I'm reading in the bath, I'm on the phone, I'm listening to music, I'm doing all the stuff. But what I do with these candles is I put the candle on, and I don't do anything else. And I just watch the flame, or I meditate. I don't touch my book. I don't touch anything. It is just a 20-minute, gifting myself the gift of time rather than enforcing anything. I think I try and reframe it as a gift.
Yeah, I think when we start experimenting with rest, we have to become aware of our relationship to time. And how, I mean, the capitalistic world in which we live is a world that is based on the idea that you are always indebted in time. Like you owe time to people, you owe time to life, you owe time to work. And then I think when you shift that thing and you go back to the idea of there is enough time and I'm giving it to myself, that is another paradigm.
And I think that what also is really interesting, because the more I have been reflecting on this and thinking about myself and my own relationship, and as I'm getting older, what do I want my life to feel like, not just look like? There's a couple of things. So I think that the pandemic has shifted our relationship with time, our concept of time. And so we've gone from, everybody's working 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, or that kind of general, not everybody, because it's a generalization, but there's that general kind of working perception of the working day. We spend most of our time at work. And so the time we don't have, the time that we're not at work is the time that people think I need to fit everything else in there that I want to do. So I don't have time to rest. And that means that we're constantly on the hamster wheel. We're constantly living on adrenaline, and our immune systems go up and down. We've had the pandemic, which meant we stopped. We now are coming back out again and in this hybrid world. And I think that's where the confusion is that people are starting to think, well, what does that look like? Because I don't have to go into the office so much now, but maybe I can fit some rest in. Whereas what I've done is I've even changed my email sign-offs as an indicator, it's kind of a little, what do I want to say? little moment of pause for myself and people who get my emails, because I sign my emails off with, if it's during the week, it's usually, or towards the end, if it's during the week, towards the end of the day, I say, wishing you a productive and nourishing evening. When it comes up to the weekend, I will say, wishing you a nourishing weekend. And it's just that little shift in this is, and that's my business emails as well. And it's little shifts.
Of course, little shifts, but little shifts in language that then allows us to maybe shift our practices.
Yeah.
Because language, and I mean, you have worked a lot on that, language shape our experience of the world.
Yeah.
So if we change the words, the expressions, then we might have some impact on the world.
Yeah. And the other, just a little side, is that the other thing I do in a lot of meetings is we actually start by grounding. So as we start the meeting, it's like, okay, how are you really feeling right now? Where are you present? What's happening? Because we acknowledge that there are these other things happening in our environment that keep us sometimes in this tension. So by starting like that and ending like that, we give ourselves a moment pause.
True. And we reconnect to the body, to the experience of being alive, which technology is more and more like blurring or erasing, making it, I mean, technology, I'm not saying it's all bad, but I'm saying, and I mean, you are an expert on technology as well.
But I have a lot of opinions.
Yes. I mean, aren't experts opinionated by nature, you know?
I think that what you say is an interesting point, because I would frame it differently, that it's not the technology that's doing this, it's our relationship with the technology. The technology itself is not sentient. It doesn't have the, you know, what we can consider to be sentient, but it's about our personal, individual and collective ability to say, I need to stop. Because the whole, you know, and what we're doing is we're giving names to these bad behaviors. So doom scrolling, and I hear people talking about, I've just been doom scrolling. I'm going, but if you know that that's what you're doing, and I've been guilty of it myself, if I know that's what I'm doing, why am I doing it? It's the, you know, it does what it says on the tin. It's doom scrolling. You're just going through time. Why not put it down and do something else? Rest.
I think people would answer, or I used to be there as well, by maybe sometimes they don't know what to do, what else to do. Like really the fear of like, but what would I do then?
Well, this goes back to what we did before. It goes back to the idea of busyness. Also, and I think this has also been magnified by this current climate, the pandemic, everything, is that people are afraid of being still and being with their own thoughts and being by themselves. So
with their emotions.
Yeah. And so what happens is it becomes, I need to get out and I need to do things. I need to be on my phone all the time. I need to have multiple screens on at the same time. You know, I'm walking down the road, and I caught myself the other day walking down the road texting. I went, what am I doing? When did I start doing this nonsense again? I can't do this. Nothing is that urgent that I need to walk and text at the same time. I told myself off and put my phone away.
I think I've noticed myself, and based again on her Facebook, because she spends quite some time on that, the way we are repressing or censoring basic needs to be doing something. So, you know, you're going to be writing an email and then you can feel thirst coming to you, or hunger, or needing to go to the loo. And no, let me finish that email first. When did we become living beings that are denying ourselves fundamental needs?
This is why I call it, it's self-harm, because we are doing it. And, you know, and I'm very mindful of the language that I'm using, but it is a form of self-harm if we are denying ourselves, our bodies, the things that they need in order to function properly. We need to have rest. You know, I'm not a biologist or to understand the full, you know, what happens in the body, but I know what happens to me when I don't get enough rest. My voice is croaky. I am tired. I woke up this morning, my eyes were burning, but I actually got up to try and do some exercise, because I know that's another way of helping me.
True, because, and this ties well in the idea that there are different forms of rest. The first one we tend to think about all the time is sleeping, napping, you know, laying down, but there are active forms of rest, like exercising, walking around. Some people need to dance, like really very actively to music to really get it off, you know, shake it off.
Yeah,
and I think that's why rest should be an experimentation. We need to try different things and find the things that work for us.
Yeah. Well, that's why the candles, and that's why I paint sometimes when I've got a lot of energy kind of going around, and I can't put everything in I can't put every single idea into one article. Okay.
Sorry, my cup of coffee was I had a cup of coffee.
It was undone.
No, it's one of my rest activities in the afternoon to have my little cup of coffee, and sorry, now I poured it over.
Well, that's an interesting one, right? Because you're having coffee to rest, but actually coffee, you know.
I know, is an exciting substance, or how do you call that? Yeah.
I can't remember the word, but it raises your kind of energy levels, and you know, because I know if I drink too much coffee, then I am shaking. So I don't, that for me is not rest.
Yeah.
My brain is very jittery and my hands are jittery, and you know, so for me, but that's also the point, right? We have to find the thing that works for us.
That's it. And I know, and some people would be starting, for example, their days with coffee. I can't. I don't need coffee in the morning. I'm awake. I'm fine. For me, it's more the afternoon. It's because I had a bit of sugar, so it's the sweetness, and it's an espresso type of coffee. Yeah. It's Turkish coffee. I'm based in Turkey.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Why? Do you love it or do you not love it?
I made the mistake of buying Turkish coffee once, and then I went, well, I've got it now. I'm going to make it. And I made it, and then I went to the supermarket and I saw my neighbor, and I was like, what's wrong with you? And I went, I've just done Turkish coffee. My whole body was shaking, and her little daughter was looking at me like, Mommy, what's wrong with Ada? I think I could have flown from my flat to the shops. I was so high. My heart was racing, my hands were shaking.
But how did you prepare it?
Oh, in one of the proper pots on the stove.
Okay, so you cooked it the way, wow, so I guess you're very receptive to caffeine. Yeah, you should,
Yeah, it was, honestly, I was shaking, and she started laughing. I went, I can't do this. I thought I was going to have a heart attack.
Wow. Okay, so it's very interesting because for me, doesn't do that. And I can sleep at night.
Oh no.
You know, so it works for me, doesn't work for you, for sure.
I mean, I think if I drank coffee before I went to sleep, I would probably end up writing, you know, some kind of epic saga in my sleep, because my brain would be all over the place. No.
So yeah, we do have to experiment and realize when something is working or not working for us. And when people say, oh yeah, this is how one rests. No, there is no dogma like you rest the way you rest.
You know, we have these, you're right, dogmas, these ideas that there is one way to do anything. There is one way to rest. There is one way to grieve. There is one way to love. There is one way to be in relationship. Who decided?
Yeah. No.
I mean, who decided, right?
The usual suspects.
When we say they, I'm like, who's they?
Yeah. And why are you listening to they? Why aren't you listening to I, or to your best friend, or whoever you would want to listen to more, you know?
I mean, I have views on that, and I'm sure that's a whole different conversation, but yeah, I think that
I still have a segue question on that, because we're talking about the they, and here I wanna talk about where we learn how to rest, because we've been a bit talking about where we learned not to rest.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering, I want to know who taught you how to rest, whether a parent, a grandparent, a spirit, a friend, a partner, a manager, an animal, a teacher, a religious leader, all of them together. Who showed you ways of resting or the importance of rest? Yeah.
Mixed, because my mum worked a lot. She was the sole, you know, kind of the main breadwinner, and so I remember being a child and she worked a lot, so she didn't have much rest. So I remember just seeing this example of somebody who was caring and loving and doing everything to make sure that we had what we needed, but also being a great mother. So she'd work and then she'd come back and she would take us out and, you know, we'd go to the library and museums and all sorts of things and dance classes. But I also remember, I think that that's where I really started to understand the importance of rest. Because being young, mum would take us to the cinema and she'd fall asleep. We'd have all the little things, she'd fall asleep. And, you know, it's funny because my relatives around knew that when I was little, the thing I used to say is, "Mummy, open your eyes. Mummy, open your eyes." So that's where my real understanding of rest came from.
Yeah.
And so, you know, my mum made sure that we rested because she couldn't, you know, to make sure that we had what we needed. And so that, I think, is the earliest memory of that. And then meditation. I got into meditation really early. So this being present in, and there was no one particular way of doing it for me. It was about, and I think I experienced it before I had the language for it. So being able to be still, I've always been very happy when there's a really good balance of sensory stimulation, but now I understand that I have dyslexia. I am dyslexic. I have ADHD, quite bad ADHD. I don't like saying bad ADHD. I have ADHD, or I experience it. And then I also borderline autistic and Asperger's. And so sensory stimulation is the thing that relaxes me. It's the thing that helps me really pause. So music, you know, relax me, and friends and ex-partners and meditation. And so there's been a lot of influences in my life that have helped me have this question about the nature of rest and what it does for me. But earliest memory is my mum, the lack of rest and not wanting to ever get to that place.
Yeah, and I think many of us have this kind of, how do you call that, default or like negative teacher. Like we look at someone and we're like, we are sad to see that they can't rest, and we realize, okay, I will try to not do that. I will try to not replicate. It's sad that we live in a world that we've experienced a time of history where we witness pretty much all the time people that are that don't have the capacity to rest as much as they would want to.
And it actually, just talking about this now has just made me realize how glad I am that my mum, now at 74 this year, she loves her rest. Her bedroom is her castle, and she loves her rest. And she will do, you know, she'll go power walking, Nordic walking, she'll do other things, but her bed is just, you know, and I love that because I know where she came from to get to this point.
Yeah, and it's funny. It resonates with my grandmother, whom I'm very close to and who is still with us. And she's also been unable to rest part of her life because, you know, patriarchy, being a housewife in charge of everything. But then she left my grandfather and she decided never again. And since then, she's always said, no, she's resting a lot. And now she calls her bed her office. So she's literally at the office.
I love this.
Yeah, it's amazing, right? It's like using the work language to talk about rest. Be like, no, it's a job, my friend. It's a job.
Yeah, of course. You put in your hours, there is some positive return.
Yeah.
A couple of months ago, I bought my mum a electric blanket. And she was like, oh no, I don't want one. And then when she got it, she's like, oh, this thing is amazing.
It's the same for my mom. My mom as well. She was refusing. She's someone that wants to not, she's very eco conscious. So she doesn't, it's been years, she doesn't heat a lot in winter before it was obliged by the state. But I was worried because she lives in a cold area in France. So I sent her an electric blanket, and at first she was like, no, I'm not using because electricity and stuff. And then I think once she tried, and then revelation.
I know.
Luxury, I think.
Yeah, because I spoke to her, my siblings, and I spoke to her about the electric blanket. She's like, no, you know, I don't want to have this thing. I'm not a gadget person, right? I'm not a gadget person and all of this. But then I just bought it and sent it. So then she rang me, she said, there's a box here with your name on. Did you order something? I said, well, what's inside the box, Mum? And she opened it, she went, it's an electric blanket. I said, oh, that's for you. You shouldn't have. Then eventually she wasn't going to use it. She used it, she went, oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah, I think electric blankets are live for sure.
Yeah. I've got a weighted blanket.
I've heard of those. So how is this like? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I got it during COVID.
Yeah.
During during the pandemic.
Yeah.
And it was because I wanted that feeling of holding, when we're isolating, holding someone or being weighted.
Of course.
Wow.
Okay, so it's worth the investment.
Yeah, for me, not everybody. I know some people don't like it, but for me, because you get it as I think it's like a 10%, 10% of your weight, your body mass or something. You get.
Okay.
And then put it on, and it instantly, I can feel myself just go, oh, okay.
Amazing. Okay, good. You were sharing so many great tips. I mean, I think people, I hope you were like taking notes. If you didn't have ideas about how to rest or what to use to rest, Adah is providing. Thank you.
These are all things that I've had to trial and error and practice and think, okay, what am I? Well, it starts from recognizing what it is that I think I'm missing. And then how can I give that to myself that isn't dependent on anybody else, that I can do at any time. And actually that's intimacy, right? So rest is a form of self-intimacy.
That's very true. And I think for me, when I started my own journey with resting, the hardest part was to understand what was missing, because we are so disconnected, so not intimate with our own self, that we will feel there is something, you're irritable, but you don't know why. And then you're stuck there, and then you might use substances or busy yourself even more to avoid this discomfort. And that's why you have to learn to connect, to be able to point out, okay, now I'm sleep deprived, or I need to eat, or I need silence,
Or, I mean, some people don't, people don't often talk about it, but good sex.
Oh, yeah. Yes, I mean, sex, yes. I think sex is
sex and that connection with somebody. Many of us will fall asleep afterwards in a deep sleep.
True.
Another thing that could help you get to that point of rest. If we're going to talk about rest, why not talk about all the things that help us to rest?
It's very true. And especially since sex can be such a like a varied type of activity. It can be extremely active or way more mellow. So,
and that's the point, that there is no, again, that thing we were saying, there's no one way of having sex, right? There's no one way of doing anything. So you work out what is right for you in that moment, a self, alone, together, multiple people, whatever it is. But there is something about the shift in endorphins and serotonin and all of those things that helps us to get to that state. For you, it's the Turkish espresso coffee, which would have me flying completely. I mean, that is the complete opposite of rest for me, but for you it works.
Yeah. Thank you for mentioning sex, though. Good point. We should add it on the list. Yeah, for sure. And because to me as well, sex is a spiritual practice.
Yes.
It can be a very just physical practice, but I think deep down it is a spiritual practice. It's an expression of the self in the moment with someone or with yourself, I would say.
And that ability to completely let go of everything else, all the things that we're thinking, the to-do list and the I need to write this, blah, blah, blah. In that moment, it is a form of connection with the self. Some people say higher being, what have you. Le petit mot, the little bit.
Le petit mot, oui,
yes. So it's all of those things that helps us to get to, we have these different tools, technologies, right? They're tools or technologies or rituals or behaviors or things that help us get to that point of going, and I am, and whatever gets you there, as long as you aren't harming anybody else, go ahead.
And that you're not, I would say, using a tool or a technology to avoid actually connecting to yourself, because I think it can be tricky, you know. You say, let me say, okay, I'm gonna drink, I'm drinking coffee to rest, but if you end up drinking a lot of coffee in order to rest, I think then you're missing maybe the point of what you're trying to achieve. But then it depends on the people.
Well, I think for me, what you're talking about there is using it as escapism.
Yes, that's it.
There's a difference using it to help us to relax and using it as escapism, as a way of avoiding whatever it is that we actually need to deal with, because we can lie to everyone else, you can't lie to yourself. And so we know, and that push, we can try. Listen, many of us have tried, right? No, I don't feel that way. Of course I don't feel that way. I don't think that. Now I don't have time or the inclination to waste on pretending that I'm not feeling something, pretending that I'm not. Listen, I've passed the 50 mark. I am enjoying myself, and I don't have the time, the inclination, or the energy to keep going on. Oh well, no, I don't want to do that. I'm tired. I don't have the energy. But here's what I can do.
Honesty.
Yeah.
And authenticity. Yeah. Beautiful. And now let me ask you about, I mean, you have come up with a beautiful analytical framework or conceptual practice or conceptual, you will tell us what it is, but it's called Cyborg Shamanism.
Yep.
And I wanted you to tell us how rest features in that or not. Have you ever thought of a connection?
Actually. So Cyborg Shamanism is a philosophy and a framework that I recognized. I wouldn't say that I designed. I recognize patterns in different worlds. So the worlds of digital technology, the worlds of the algorithms and the cyborgs. And cyborg really for me is using a technology to augment ourselves. Enhance, it'll rather augment. So that's cyborgs. But I also recognize this pattern in quantum mechanics, in spirituality, in faith-based systems, in shamanism. And the pattern is that we use different tools to help us do three things: understand and connect with ourselves, understand and connect with others, understand and connect with our environment. And so initially it was, I saw those two worlds as opposite, cyborgs and the shaman, but actually there is a whole holistic approach. We love binaries, and I don't understand, but nothing in this place is binary. It's just maybe we haven't seen the other side of it yet, but it's not binary. And so this whole idea of these being polar opposites. And so the framework that I recognized is that there's 5 phases to it, and I'm just shortcutting. People can read my website or what have you. But the framework is leave, breathe, grow, flow, and ground. So leave. How do we leave the old ways behind to connect, to find new values? Well, and I'm doing this off the top of my head because I haven't thought about it before. But with leave, that means that I need to stop doing all the busy and expectations, blah, blah, blah. And the value is that I need to value rest. Breathe. What are the tensions in the system that we need to break free of, that we can then become a hypothesis of change or a system of change? Well, I need to remove the tensions, which is my relationship or running away from myself, and recognize that rest is also about being able to be mindful, be present, be in. Grow. So grow is the tools, technologies, rituals, which we've just talked about. Could be sex, could be dancing, could be music, could be going for a run, could be Turkish coffee. It could be all of these things. I'm going to keep going on about that because it's just completely different for me. Flow. How do I get into a state of flow? That 20 minutes I said with a candle in the bath, where I'm not doing anything. I am just present. I've let go of everything else. We talked about le petit mot, the whole, you get into this state of bliss, of suspended animation, where we completely let go and the to-do list is gone and all the other things have gone. And then ground, how do I ground myself back after this process? And so that may be the waking up. What I tend to do when I wake up in the morning is I try to, before I touch the phone or start doom scrolling and all that nonsense, I try to focus on my waking soundscape. So what's the first sound that I hear? My belly rumbling, my breath, my belly rumbling. What's the next sound I hear? Probably the neighbors. What's the next sound I can hear? Like you can probably hear the dog barking. And I start to wake up by thinking about my soundscape getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So how far can I hear? I can probably hear the cars on the high street, which is, probably from here a 7-minute walk. And so I just kind of open myself up. And for me, that's maintaining that sense of sacredness about the fact that I have just rested my body and I don't need to get up and start, even though my brain can be like this, I don't need to get up and just start running.
No.
So that's the framework: leave, breathe, grow, flow, ground.
Amazing. So yes, cyborg shamanism is also about rest, or can also help us rethink our relationship and our practices, rest-based practices.
Yeah, definitely.
And now I want you to share, if you have anything to share, a picture, a music, a video clip that would represent rest. If you want to share it with the audience, explain what it is.
Yeah. So I'm going to share a playlist. I love making playlists, and they have different themes, and because they hit me in different, sometimes it's about the music hitting me in different places in my body, and this is my bath playlist. So there will be, I find Gregorian chanting beautiful, just or cello music, or Miles Davis, or acoustic blues. There are certain things within those rhythms that just enable me to let go. So I'm going to share the playlist. People can follow it. In fact, can I share two? Because I've got another one that I'm just making as well. So the second playlist is called Sonic Massage.
Oh, wow.
Because with my ADHD brain, I have found that there are certain kind of drone type music that helps my brain just slow down. And so what I did over I think the last week or so is I've just started to put together this playlist of drone type music that makes me feel like I'm getting a massage. And so a rest ritual for me is to lie on the sofa with my headphones on and listen to that music and just feel like I'm having a gong bath or a meditation or something. But these are tracks that I find on Spotify or whatever platform. So I'm going to share both of them.
I'm excited to try that on myself. And just listening to you talking about the sonic massage one, but even the first one, I was feeling things a little bit in my body already, as if my body was like, yes, please, I think this is going to work for me too. So,
well, I hope it does. Let me know what happens and how you feel.
Yeah, I shall. Thank you for sharing that. That's very generous. And this is where we also see, and that's something that Hersey talks a lot about in the book, how rest is not only an individual practice. It's a collective. It should be a collective practice. We should be resting together or helping each other to rest, because if we want to change the world, we need to change ourselves, but we need to change as well the way we live together, and we should support each other to heal, therefore to heal the world. So thank you for contributing to the collective rest project.
My pleasure.
And my last question for you, because we've talked a lot, but we are coming to an end now, and we go back to what you said at the very beginning. I want to pick up on this idea of ancestry, of ancestors. Which ancestor do we want to become, or do we want to be? I was wondering what rest lesson, as an ancestor in becoming, so what rest lesson would, if you had to choose one, would you like to leave as legacy?
So with cyborg shamanism and the ancestor question, they're all interconnected. That's the one feeds the other. I created an alphabet. So, A, anthropomorphism, B, balance, C, curiosity. And I was looking at what are the words or the characteristics that appear in all of these things. And the one I think really has to do with rest is interoception. And it's the ability of listening to our body and listening internally and actually connecting with that. And I think that's the most powerful thing that we can do as a legacy for rest, for being a good ancestor, is really reconnecting with our bodies and not overriding the fact that I need to do this, I want to do this, but recognize that when we know that when our stomach rumbles, that we're hungry. We know when our lips get dry, we're thirsty, so why is it when our body's telling us that we need to, and I'm guilty of this as well, but why is it when our bodies tell us that we need to rest, we're going, oh no, I can do this. I'll keep going. So interoception, I think, would be a great gift. That it would be a great way, a great provocation for us to choose to follow in order to be better ancestors.
To be better ancestors in the sense of being more embodied ones.
Well, yeah, because when I talk about being a good ancestor, what I'm talking about is being conscious of all the ripples that we're putting out into the world. It doesn't mean that you have to have children. So if we are constantly exhausted, we're probably going to be irritable. We're not going to eat properly. We're going for fast food. We're going for, we develop technology really fast. All of these things, we go, oh, I know I should be doing more for climate change, but blah, blah, blah. So there's a ripple that can happen as a result of us not listening to our bodies.
Yeah, true. And the ripple is also, I would say, material or economic, in the sense that the capitalist system has an interest in us not connecting to our bodies, because then it can keep selling us the things that would make us feel not as bad. Medication and you name it. Although, I mean, medication is needed, but I mean
Well, I think that it's more than that. I think that, and a friend, Tobias, recently asked me a question as part of a thing I was doing for him, which is, if a law could be created tomorrow, if you could create a law tomorrow, what would it be? And mine would be that humans, animals, and nature are not considered for their financial value.
But the law is not being prepared at this moment. I mean, in your head, in the head of many thinkers and activists, but in the realms of power.
Yeah, but what that does for me, and the reason I asked that as part of it, is that it means that I now think differently. So when I'm creating something, I'm trying to create without looking at humans as, so we talk about human capital, nature capital, all those things. So I try to remove those as measures of success in whatever I'm designing, in whatever I'm saying. And just the removal of that means that I have to think differently.
And it means also you can think maybe more freely.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah, look, change is always going to be uncomfortable. So lean into that, lean into the discomfort and the not knowing, and we don't have to know everything. And there are other people who are better, more qualified or experienced in different things. Go outside of your comfort zone and speak to other people. That's where Cyborg Shamanism came from. I didn't do it all on my own. I had conversations with people whose worlds I was curious about, but I did not understand.
So yeah, let's keep learning.
Yeah, remain curious.
Yeah, and rest.
Yes, definitely.
And now I let you free. You may go and take a bath. Maybe, I don't know. I've
got a little bit more. Oh no, actually, I'm going to cook. I've got friends coming over for dinner.
Oh, cooking can be
beautiful.
Can be very nice.
And I'm very present for that.
Oh, and enjoy that. Thank you so very much for this beautiful and so rich conversation. It will stay with me, and then there will be the playlist. You're going to be with us for a long time.
Okay. Thank you
so much. Have a good end of day and happy cooking.
Thank you. And you have a beautiful rest this evening.
Thank you. Bye-bye.